speak after all those who have signed in have given their testimony. 3 minutes will be allowed for each person. Public hearing for the proposed 2017 City of DuPont budget. The purpose of this hearing is for the City Council to hear testimony on the proposed 2017 City of DuPont budget. Everyone present will be given an opportunity to be heard. Please keep comments to the item that is being discussed. An official reporting will be made of what is said at this hearing. Therefore, those addressing the City Council are requested to begin by stating their name and address. Speak clearly into the microphone, one person at a time. This time is for testimony. No debate is allowed. Order of speaking will be staff presentation, testimony from anyone wishing to speak, and the council may speak on hearing topics during the council comments portion of the meeting. And I would now like to introduce Finance Director Paul Berry.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Tonight we're going to do the second part to our public hearing on the 2017 budget. And we're going to give the PowerPoint just a minute to catch up to us. But following my presentation on the budget, we'll have an opportunity for public comment. An important part of putting the 2017 budget together is making sure that you have the vision and mission statement in front of you so that you know that you're working towards that as that budget is being put together. And the vision of the city is to be the best city in Washington with proper balance of public safety, quality of life, economic vitality, and environmental and historic preservation. The mission is to provide affordable, high-quality municipal services with responsive and accessible local governance, ensuring everyone has an opportunity to contribute to the community of DuPont. You will see a slight difference in the slides from the first presentation to the second presentation for the 2017 budget. If you do recall, there was $75,000 in property tax that we were needing to reduce for the 2017 proposed budget. What we did is we looked at the revenues associated with the new hotels, which have not been included as part of the 2017 estimates, with exception to hotel motel tax revenue, which we had estimated to increase by 30%. So looking at the 2017 proposed budget, the overall city budget is at $15.5 million. That is a $3,000 increase over the original budget that you had in front of you, and that has to do with, during one of our presentations, we talked about the computer management maintenance system for public works, and all the other funds who are contributing to this project have been charged and budgeted for that, not charged, but budgeted for that. However, the street fund was overlooked. So you will see an increase of $3,000 in expenditures related to the street fund. The general fund comprises 52% of the overall total budget, or $8.1 million. Looking at the 2017 budget, we have been able to maintain or increase levels of service across all departments. And the proposed property tax levy includes the statutorily allowed 1% increase, plus new construction and adjustments. When you look at the citywide operating budget, you will see that 21% of the expenditures for the city are related to utilities, about 31% towards public safety, and then it is distributed amongst the other departments accordingly. We're going to focus a little bit right now on the general fund. The general fund is providing our basic services, normal operations. That's going to be fire, police, parks, greenways, recreation, planning, maintenance, etc. You'll notice that this has changed from the first presentation, but it's been updated to reflect the changes in revenues, reducing the amount in property tax 21% of the general fund revenues are coming from the regular property tax levy, and another 8.7% from the EMS levy. We also have 19.1% from utility taxes, then followed by business taxes and sales taxes. In most cities, you're going to find property tax and sales taxes competing for the highest contributor to the general fund for revenues. I did provide to you the new revenue projections for the general fund. You can see that the property tax now is reflected at the anticipated revenue of $1,715,000 and the EMS levy at $708,000 for a total overall revenue of $1.16 million for the general fund. The property tax being a big part of our general fund, I wanted to go through the calculation. Last year's levy was at $1,732,000. That had $77,000 higher than our lawful levy due to administrative refunds. But once we add in the 1% allowable increase, the new construction and administrative refunds for 2017, we're looking at a levy of $1,715,000, or a levy rate of nearly $1.18 per 1,000 assessed valuation. And the property tax dollars, of the $1 that you pay towards property tax, 14 cents of that will come to the city of DuPont. 10 cents for the regular levy and 4 cents for the EMS levy. Then 45 cents of that dollar is going to go to the Steilacoom School District, 21 cents to the state, and then the remaining will go to Pierce County, Port of Tacoma, Flood Control, and Pierce County Library. The general fund expenditures, you'll notice that we have police and fire in at just over $2 million each, followed by Parks, Greenways, Public Works, nearly $1 million, governments of nearly $700,000, and finance at about $363,000, for total expenditures of $8,125,000. When you look at that, you're going to see that about 49% of our general fund budget goes towards public safety, 11% towards public works and planning, and then the remainder spread amongst the other departments. We're projecting to end 2017 with ending fund balance overall citywide of almost $11.2 million, of which $933,000 would be the general fund. And at this point, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over for public comment.
Okay, floor is open for public comments. Yeah, she's going to read a sheet now. Okay, first for public comments, Mr. Steve Schenker.
Thank you, sir. Council. I'd like to comment on the 2017 budget. Steve Shank, 1473 Kitson Street. I want to, first of all, I want to give thanks to the mayor and the council for the current financial stability of the city. I'm pleased to see the mayor's emphasis on improving life-saving capabilities and public safety. The next year's proposed budget is sound, but I'd like to make a recommendation to council, especially in the road and street fund. My spouse has fallen, and she had to go to the hospital. My son has also fallen. My 75-year-old mother, people with strollers and people getting pushed in wheelchairs often use the street as opposed to the sidewalks because of the condition here in our city. These sidewalks, unless we're talking the historic village, are only 20 years old or less. Council has been talking about the trees and sidewalks for years. The city's 2016 goals address developing and maintaining high-quality public infrastructure and a comprehensive plan to address the sidewalk and street issue by the end of this year. Our current transportation improvement plan addresses replacing sidewalks on Palisade Boulevard, from 2017 to 19. Public Works knows what they need to do based upon their October brief and the work that they've done. It's been very good work. The 2017 budget, the draft budget mentions sidewalks by developing a multi-year solution to repair, and I quote, the conflict between street trees and sidewalks. A conflict? This is public safety. This isn't a conflict between concrete and tree roots. Council, please take a hard look at the monies going to road and street maintenance, and I recommend you look for ways to increase it. The transportation improvement plan and the proposed budget asks for monies for feasibility studies for other things. I am totally for this ask, and I would have no problem having my taxes increase for some of the things that the mayor would like to do. But I don't think we should be paying for any feasibility studies until we can fix the infrastructure that we have right now. Thank you, sir.
And next for public comment on the 2017 budget is Mr. David Bunker.
Good evening, David Bunker, 2702 MacArthur Street. I would like to second that, no feasibility study for a community center. Also, the city of DuPont created the problem of truck staging on Center Drive and in the local communities. Please fund a staging area, fund signage, and fund the installation of that. Please do not sell the Shaw House, turn it into a small community center with daily operations, rental opportunities, and other functions. The Shaw House can also support Chief Leschi Park events with a restroom. Or the building can use what it was designed for to support a private ambulance. Please cancel and reapply to the Pierce County LTAC for the restrooms and the kiosk at Afraidy Park. We are now paying more in REIT money than the grant. Please reapply next year, take the $200,000 in REIT and bring the existing community center up to code, open it up, give the citizens what they want. Please do not hire the 11th firefighter. Instead, start paying the volunteer firefighters higher than the other surrounding volunteer departments. The city of DuPont, due to its location, should pay well above the market rate. By doing that, you will have a strong department, combination department. The department will meet daily requirements, minimize overtime, and augment the staffing needs for vacation, long-term sickness, and training requirements. Also, it's crucial that the budget, the contract for the fire department includes volunteer firefighters, volunteer firefighter EMT, and volunteer firefighter paramedic. Do not buy an ambulance. Drive into DuPont off at exit 119. Please, look at it. It's all high-rises now, 4 stories. Please replace the oldest vehicle in the fire department inventory, the ladder truck. The city has multiple story residential and commercial buildings. The city's infrastructure is aging, and the need for ladder truck operations and support is increasing. The 2008 house fire on Forest Street required a ladder truck from, at the time, Lakewood Fire District 2. This was to protect the surrounding homes and to suppress the fire. And as for the EMS levy, please hire a contracted private ambulance service, host an ambulance in DuPont for all ALS and BLS calls. Thank you.
Okay, there's no one else who has signed up on the public hearing sheets. Is there anyone who has not signed up that wishes to speak on the 2017 budget? Clerk, have there been any written materials that have been submitted, or anyone wishes to submit without speaking?
No.
If anyone has specific questions on this subject, please do not hesitate to stop by City Hall during business hours or call our main line, and staff will assist you with getting answers to your questions. Okay, is there anyone else who has not spoken and wishes to? There being no further testimony, I will close the public hearing. We'll open the second public hearing, amendment to DMC Chapter 25.35 Mixed Use District. Procedures are the same for this hearing as the last. Public hearing for the proposed amendment to DMC Chapter 25.35 Mixed Use District. The purpose of this hearing is for the City Council to hear testimony on the amendment to DuPont Municipal Code Chapter 25.35 Mixed Use District. Everyone present will be given an opportunity to be heard. Please keep comments to the item that is being discussed. An official reporting will be made of what is said at this hearing. Therefore, those addressing the City Council are requested to begin by stating their name and address. Speak clearly into the microphone, one person at a time. This time is for testimony. No debate is allowed. Order of speaking will be staff presentation, testimony from anyone wishing to speak. Council may speak on hearing topics during the council comments portion of the meeting. And let's see, now I will introduce the city planner, Mr. Jeff Wilson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Jeff Wilson, Planning Director for the City of DuPont. And I will try and, you've got a lot of material in your packet, so I'll keep my presentation really brief and be able to respond to any questions you might have. I'd like to highlight a couple of items here. What we have is a proposed text amendment to the DuPont Municipal Code, and that is to, initially started out would be to allow indoor storage to occur on the second, anything above the first floor in our mixed-use zone classification. As part of the review process and doing the consideration, we were looking at the benefits of doing that and going through the hearing process and review process of the Planning Commission. We actually broke it down into two separate requests. One is to create a new zoning designation in the municipal code under 2536, which would be a mixed-use 2 zoning designation, still a subset of the original mixed-use designation within the city. And that comprises about 2.97 acres. I'm going to put a slide up real quickly that'll show the location of that property so that number 3, no attachment number 1 is on the list. Down here. Next, right there. And the location of this property really is at the kind of the eastern, northeastern corner of McNeil Street and Center Drive. It comprises 2 properties on the south side of McNeil, 1 parcel on the north side of McNeil. They are the shaded areas, and cross-hatched areas a little bit further down on the drawing. The reason that we, in looking at this and making that recommendation, is that this area really kind of distinguished itself from the rest of the mixed-use zoning classification. The properties facing McNeil Street are separated by a large parking lot between the business frontages on Wilmington, and they're also then separated from the, there's some apartment uses to the north of McNeil Street. We have one small commercial property on the other corner of McNeil Street and Center Drive. So looking at those 3 comprise this new mixed-use 2 zoning designation. The proposal would not take away any of the uses presently allowed within those areas. It simply provides the opportunity, or it identifies as a permitted use, indoor storage that could occur. Nothing else changes as far as our code requirements are. It's still subject to the same design requirements, the same design review process, so there's complete control through the review process to make sure the exterior of the building complies with and is consistent with other development that's already existing within the city. There are some photos that we put together that show that we can make that design of that building look any way that you want and how they actually have been done in other jurisdictions. And what's really interesting in the way these photos are kind of designed is in 2 stages. You can see that these are 4 buildings. Probably the one that you would see the most that you might identify as being storage would be that one in the lower left-hand corner. But if you go to the next slide, you see that all 4 of these buildings actually are storage facilities. So it's what's designed with the exterior side, with the design side of things, what the architects get paid for is to make that building look and fit however we want to see it fit within the building. And you can see that these are done in the bottom right-hand corner. You can see it's actually located right next to a child fun center. So you've got mini storage right next door to the entry going in an area where there are a lot of children that are present and in that area. But every single one of these buildings are designed to fit within the community that they serve designed to meet their design characteristics, however they wanted to do, and in most cases, you wouldn't be able to tell this that it's indoor storage at all. So the proposed amendment would allow that use to occur within our mixed-use zoning designation, that mixed-use 2 classification, and only within that mixed-use 2 classification. So the simple request, or what's been presented, is to amend our code to provide a new chapter in 2536, mixed-use 2 designation. It would allow for mini storage or indoor storage to occur. It doesn't change any of the design requirements that the city already has, so we have all those protections in place. It would also then provide some flexibility, and actually the language is changed slightly from what you see in the text. You'll see it in the draft ordinance, that through a development agreement process, which is approved and reviewed by the council in open public session, that there is the ability to reduce the 80% to something less than 80%. Floor is an arbitrary floor, I'll admit that. But because the council controls what that number is, or controls the development agreement, how it be enacted, 79.9%, they would still need to go through a development agreement if they're reducing that first floor retail. Anything below 80% requires council approval for development agreement. If it complies with the first floor retail requirement, which we changed language to make sure that it's just consistent, any retail on the first floor complies with that 80%, then it would be a permitted use to have indoor storage on whatever floor is above that. And that is part of the simple text amendment request. The other part is to approve, kind of concurrent with this, a rezone of that 2.97 acres from mixed use to a mixed use 2 zoning designation to really limit the areas where this new text and this new uses would be allowed. So with that, I would be happy to respond to any questions that council may have, or I can wait until later on if any come up.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Are there any written materials that have been submitted or anyone that wishes to submit without speaking? No? Okay, good. Again, as I said before, if anyone has questions on the subject, please do not hesitate to stop by City Hall, as some of you have done during business hours, or call our main line, and staff will assist you with getting answers to your questions. I'll now call upon the persons signed up in the sheet. And first on the list is Mr. David Munger.
Hello, David Barner, 2702 MacArthur. Council, please do not allow for the text amendments to the DuPont Municipal Code, Chapter 25, or the rezone, or the contractor's agreement. There are other sites in DuPont that can support indoor storage. Other locations would better serve that business model, the city of DuPont, and the residents. As for the option of a gas station, most gas stations that are built today are called a combination. They're a gas station restaurant, a gas station strip mall. All you have to do is look at Chevron and Jack in the Box. As for the sewer, when they put in the tanks, they're going to put in the oil separators. They can put everything in for multi-kitchens, multi-industrial kitchens. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is look to Sandy of the DuPont General Store. The ACU building was not qualified for the sewer to support an industrial kitchen. Sandy alone did that, okay? A gas station restaurant combination or gas station strip mall combination will create more revenue daily and the increased property tax for the city. Every mayor, every city administrator, everybody since the recession says we have to grow our way out of our financial problems. Let's have both. Let's have an indoor storage at some other location. Let's have a gas station, restaurant, gas station, strip mall. We need the revenue. We want the revenue. We don't want to chase developers away. There are other opportunities. So please serve DuPont, not the wants of developers. Please, it's really easy tonight. You don't have to vote. Just do not make a motion to move agenda item 13B to a second reading. It says you're not voting yes or no, just don't move it to a second reading. That's what the Planning Commission did. That's why it's here. Thank you.
Mr. Casey Muhlenberg.
So when it first came out, I came out because when I closed my eyes, I saw the mini storage. I didn't want that in the middle of our town, and I don't think anyone else did. But when I had an opportunity to actually listen, and I mean listen to what the plan was, things started changing. I started talking to Drew and his wife about it. I talked to the city council and planning commission about it. What was really going on? What is it going to bring to our community? And when you listen, it's a great plan. Let two-story indoor storage build have retail underneath. It's going to bring more revenue into the city. Not only that, but it's going to give the business owners, me being one, a place to be able to store our dry goods. The apartments, the people in the community that don't have storage in the home, be able to put it in a highly climate-controlled facility in a high secure location. I'm in full support of the indoor storage facility.
Thank you. Beth Elliott.
So good evening. My name is Beth Elliott, and I live at 1485 Kitson Street. And I'm speaking tonight as a citizen and not as a member of the Planning Commission. And I'm here to voice my support of the new mixed-use District 2 with a development agreement and an indoor storage facility space with a hardware store. I have thought long and hard about this decision, and I have changed my mind on multiple occasions. But I have decided this zoning change is in the best interest of our city. Would an indoor storage facility be my first choice? No. Would it be my second choice? Probably not. But if it has a hardware store, it would be my third choice. Seriously, it is time that we move forward. We have other pieces of property which will command much more of our attention. And for about 10 years, the city has tried to market this piece of property to multiple grocery stores and businesses, but to no avail. The property is just too expensive, and to complicate matters, sewer does not support a commercial kitchen. The applicant for the indoor storage facility says he will include a designated pre-designed space for a hardware store and a garden center on the ground floor. The hardware store would encompass approximately 8,000 square feet, and about 2,000 square feet will make up a garden center. And from the conversations I have held with various residents, I've learned that a hardware store would be well utilized. The traffic to and from the indoor storage facility and hardware store would be minimal compared to a gas station. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Bill Ambrose.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Phil Ambrose, 1849 McDonald Avenue. So I wanted to first start off with saying thank you for the letter that went out with the water bill. I think that's a really good technique to get the word out about what council's doing, what initiatives are being discussed. However, I would like to say and state that, Mr. Mayor, what you put in this is inaccurate. This text amendment, as Mr. Wilson has stated, I've already heard on 2 occasions at the Planning Use Committee and here at Council, is discussing rezoning for the use of indoor storage. And I don't particularly appreciate that this misinformation was put out. That said, a hardware store, and the reason why it's misinformation is because this initiative is for indoor storage with the possibility of a hardware store. And it sounds like there might be a good likelihood that a hardware store could be there. It sounds like there's been a lot more discussions like that alluded to here about the hardware store being a possible tenant. But I think we all can agree that there are plenty of first floor retail space around the city that hasn't been utilized as originally intended. And that's a little alarming to me that we're considering rezoning a mixed use area with the hopes of that first floor area retail becoming a hardware store. This isn't Field of Dreams. If you build it, that doesn't mean they come. And again, I'm not familiar with whatever development agreements could happen with the gentleman that wants to develop an indoor storage. maybe that's something that could be written in. That's great, but I still feel I'm a little hesitant on giving my vote for this, even though I do want to see a hardware store. I think that would be a great use of that property. Like I said, there's already vacant areas on multiple first floor retail spaces that aren't being filled, and there's no guarantee that building such a space will create a hardware store, at least from what I've seen. I'd also like some further explanation on the sewer issue. I'd like to understand if that is a constraint with the lot, if it's already been developed with a smaller pipe, if you will, for sewer for a commercial use, or if that's the combined sewer that's in the right-of-way that's constrained. And if it's the latter, then I feel like as a city we have other problems to deal with. If the combined sewer itself is not large enough, does not have enough capacity to support development. Further, I'd like a little bit more explanation on the development agreement and just big picture too, on the ballot. I'm sure all of you have voted today, I know I did. One thing that is on that ballot is the Sound Transit proposal. And I'd like the council to keep that in mind, that 5 to 10 years, when Sound Transit continues to push further south, the Sounder and so forth, the city will become a little bit more of a desirable commuter spot. It's a commuting city for me. Thanks, I know I'm over time, but just keep our eyes on the bigger picture, and thank you.
Christina Rucker.
Hi, I'm Christina Rucker of Petroleum, Washington. I work for Urban Self-Storage Management Company that manages DuPont heated self-storage, your guys' storage facility currently serving the area. From everything I've heard so far, mostly just the citizens coming to us, it's been shared with you folks that we are full, we have no spaces, we have waiting lists for eternity. I wanted to make sure you guys are aware that is not the case. We are currently operating over the last 12 months with an 86% average, so we definitely aren't full. In the last, since opening in 2004, we have reached 90% or above 4 times, and within 20 months we have dropped back down to the 60% mark based off troop deployment and movement in and out of the area. We've also heard rumors that it's being stated we always raise our rates. They're just continuously rising. We actually haven't had any increases to storage rates since 2010. We have no reason to continue to rise up our price, even if we do have the only facility in the city of DuPont. Someone mentioned we were comparable to Bellevue prices. While we are definitely high, we're not comparable to Bellevue's pricing. Just also want to share with you, we are on a very small market. We are really only supporting DuPont and a tiny edge of Silicon as far as our customer base is concerned. So the average 3-mile radius is really kind of shrunk down to just our city here. 43% of our customers are DuPont residents. 12% of them are reported to live on Joint Base Lewis McChord, so we'll assume that there's active duty troops. And then 8% are Silicon residents. Let's see, we have a little out of order today. I did have a question about some numbers that were also reported. I don't know, everything I could find said the population of DuPont is currently around 10,000. And the numbers that have been proposed by Drew were around 20,000. I do believe we are still 100% meeting the demand for the city of DuPont as far as storage is concerned. Thank you.
Mr. Drew Bowles.
Good evening. First off, thank you for taking time out of your evening on this election night. I know there's a lot going on in the world. Thanks for making the sacrifice of being here. In the interest of time, I'm going to jump right in. This is just a quick outline of my response to objections that have been raised to this proposal. I've provided staff with a much longer, detailed document, which I hope you all had the chance to review a little bit. First off, there was a concern raised about hazardous materials. Our lease is very clear that we prohibit storage of any flammable, explosive, hazardous, or toxic or legal substances, among other things. This isn't somewhere in the fine print of our lease. directly there. A manager goes over it with the potential tenant at the time of lease signing, and they actually have to initial directly next to it. Some comments have been made that we have absolutely no way to control. People can sign whatever they want, but we have no control over what's in their storage. And I can see why someone might think that, but it's actually not true. We cooperate with, with the cooperation of local police departments. We can allow them to use our facility for the training of their canine units, their dogs. And it states directly in our lease, they also initial next to this, that if we have reason to believe they have any prohibited materials in the unit, we are able to remove that from the unit, and that serves as grounds for termination of their lease. I've already had a meeting with Chief Sheehan to discuss this, and don't want to speak for you, but say you were willing to work with us on this at some point in the future. In terms of our other security measures, we have a couple different layers. First is we control access to our tenants. Each tenant at the time we move in is given a discrete or an individual code to them, or a RFID card to access the property. When they do that, much like at other storage facilities, it provides them access to whatever floor they're on, disarms their individual unit alarm, and the whole process goes in reverse when they leave. So we know who's on our property. They're not allowed access to other parts of the building where they don't have any business being. And we can also tie that into our video footage, which is in our second layer. This particular property, because of the ACE hardware, we would be investing in a very, very high-end digital video system. I will mention this is not something we do at all of our facilities, but quite honestly, because our ACE hardware will have somewhere around $250,000 to $300,000 worth of new inventory, we feel those are goods that we want to protect. That video monitors the entire.
We're at the limit of your time.
Thank you.
Dee Hepburn.
Hi, I'm Dawn Hepburn, 1263 Hudson Street. I'm not texting, I wrote my notes on my phone. I would like to ask you all, please vote yes to allow the indoor storage. When we bought our house here about 8 years ago, there's a big, ugly vacant lot that had a sign on it that said something to the effect of future home of DuPont grocery store, right? So we all know where that went. Yes, we have the daycare there now, and that's wonderful, but boy, our town has a lot of banks, we have a lot of nail salons, but we hardly have any retail. I don't have post privileges, so anytime I need to buy anything, I gotta go into Lacey or Lakewood, so that could easily be a 45-minute round trip. And so when the pharmacy opened, I'm telling you what, I was thrilled. Ooh, pharmacy, that doesn't sound very exciting, but when you need a greeting card, or you need some Advil or something, it's wonderful to be able to do a 5-minute drive. Same with our DuPont General Store. You need some milk, it's great to have an option beyond a gas station. I don't normally purchase milk at a gas station, so it's a really wonderful retail resource for us here. And again, like I said before, the hotels, the banks, the nail salons, all those things are great, but an opportunity for useful retail will really contribute to the quality of life here for the people who live in DuPont. Any day you don't need to spend an hour in the car because you ran out of light bulbs, is a wonderful day. And for people like me that work long hours, I have aging parents, it is a huge time saver. And again, I'm telling you, it is a huge quality of life improvement when we have more of the great kind of retail coming in. I really truly feel that the concerns about indoor storage are unfounded and are far outweighed by the retail benefit. Even an opportunity, I realize it's not a guarantee, but an opportunity for a hardware store would just be a wonderful, again, quality of life improvement for those of us here in DuPont. Thank you.
Guy Claudia.
Good evening. My name is Guy Claudy. I'm a homeowner at 3070 Bryan Street here in DuPont. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and fellow citizens of DuPont. I'm here tonight to speak on the matter of rezoning of 3 lots to allow indoor storage. I've been a resident of DuPont now for 7 years. My family and I have come to love this city. It's our home, and we chose to retire when I left the military. This city is a perfect combination of small town and urban living. And because of this love that I stand before you. What is before the council is a proposal to rezone 3 lots in downtown DuPont to allow indoor storage. Now, it's been written by the mayor that this is not spot zoning, and on the prima facie, this would be correct. Well, let's take a look at these 3 lots. One is currently undeveloped, and the other 2 have existing businesses. Is it the belief of the mayor and his council that those 2 businesses will eventually become indoor storage? Or are they the other 2 lots there to prevent the appearance of spot zoning? Another question is, why only these 3 lots? Why not the lots that are located next to City Hall? Why aren't all multiple use lots being allowed to have indoor storage? This leads to the final question of this subject. Is it the intention of the mayor and the city and the council to have the corner of Center McNeil be nothing but indoor storage? Because by changing this zoning to open the door to allow this to happen, this is what our city could become. To be the indoor storage capital of Washington? Let's move on to the next item. This is the including of the 8,000 square foot Ace Hardware with 2,000 square foot garden center, as it is written. If this is true, this would be a very large Ace Hardware right here in our city. So is this the direction we want our city to head to? Large box stores here in the city? Is this what you as a resident of the city picture us heading toward? Next to Walmart or maybe a Target? Speaking for myself, this is not what I pictured of our city heading, but I digress. Let's deal with the Ace Hardware. For such a large store, you would expect a large volume of customers for the business to stay profitable. So the question isn't only the increase of traffic for the indoor storage facility, but also for this big box store. What is the second and third order effects of this increased traffic on our streets? The same streets that we don't want tractor trailers on, but we will have delivery trucks, contractor vehicles, moving company trucks, and at least we forget regular people driving rental vehicles. All this increased traffic, is this what you picture for the city of DuPont? In conclusion, Mr. Mayor and council members, we have a request to change zoning that could very well become a legal challenge, not necessarily going to happen, but it is a possibility. But even if it doesn't, we have a large retail hardware store in the heart of our city that will be dependent upon large flows of traffic, otherwise it won't stay afloat. Is this really what we want for our city? Is this the direction we want to take our city? Indoor storage facilities and retail stores. I ask that you vote no on the request for changing the zoning laws. Let's not change what this beautiful city is. Let's not lose our small town charm. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who has not spoken and wishes to?
I'll speak. Neighbor 301 Brandywine, and as a planning commission member, when it first came for the first part, the first chapter was, does our city ordinance even consider indoor storage as a possibility, as something different from mini storage? It did not. So what the planning commission did move forward to the city council was to amend the code to provide a definition for indoor storage. And then the next piece, which was not necessarily moved forward by the planning commission, was the amendment to that ordinance to provide for the mixed-use 2 zone. I personally believe that indoor storage can be a beneficial use in a mixed-use zone because you have, as our one speaker said, you have your businesses that need dry goods storage, you have your apartments, condos, that with these residents, they don't have that 2,000 square foot house to store their winter clothes, their leather or whatever, and the current mini storage that's available does not necessarily suit the needs of people that need indoor storage. Their items, leather gets destroyed, things melt, things mildew, which they wouldn't in an indoor storage facility. I personally am in favor of a mixed-use indoor storage, a possibility on floors above the first floor in the mixed-use zone. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
My name is
States Heston, and I live at 20512 Church Lake Drive East, Monty Lake, Washington. And I'm the Market Development Manager for Ace Hardware Corporation. I've held this position since 2001 and have opened more than 130 stores in Washington, Oregon, Alaska, California, Idaho, Montana, North and South Dakota. I'm now responsible for new store development in Washington, Oregon, Northern California, and Hawaii. I was raised with Ace Hardware as my grandparents owned the first Ace Hardware store in Redding, California, and my family owned an Ace Hardware store in Shasta Lake, California, and Gallup, Washington. I have 30 years of experience in hardware retailing and worked at my family's Ace store for 14 of those years. Ace Hardware is the largest hardware co-op in the world with more than 4,800 stores worldwide and retail sales in excess of $12 billion. We are owned by our Ace retailers. Part of my responsibility is to identify markets that are open and can support a new Ace store. If we identify an open market, we will ascertain if there is a viable location suitable for a ground-up new store. Once we identify a suitable location, we will market the location and identify a suitable operator. We welcome new investors and existing retailers to review these potential new store locations and move forward if the opportunity makes sense for them. It is also my responsibility to consistently use numerous tools when identifying opportunities. Once we demographically identify a market that is capable of supporting a new Ace store, we will review and determine that the identified market can support a conveniently located store while not infringing on any other Ace retailers. There are numerous factors that can help determine our decision that a market is deemed open. Ace Hardware Corporation reviews each new store opportunity with a high level of detail and scrutiny so as to make the best decision for our retailers and customers. DuPont is an open, viable market for a new Ace store. We believe that if a store is open here in a suitable location with retail synergy and enough niches with representation in our lawn and garden, paint, and core departments, the local residents will shop the store. It is a proven fact that Ace stores succeed when they are conveniently located, which saves our customers time and money. It's imperative that our owners support the Ace brand and provide amazing service while driving their entrepreneurial spirit and offering niches outside of Ace. One such potential niche is self-storage. We believe that both businesses will enhance each other. Self-storage supports the needs of most any homeowner and resident who needs to keep their belongings in a safe and secure environment.
Sir, you have used your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Next.
Mayor Courts, members of council, thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight. Kyle and Barry, 1234 Bellevue Place. I actually wrote the notes tonight as I walked into Ramble. Today I went downtown and I wanted to buy something, anything. And what I found out was I could get my nails done, which I didn't. I can get a haircut, I can get some beer, I can get a meal, I can get some coffee, but no durable goods, nothing. No bicycles, no electronics, no tools, no clothing, nothing. It seems to me to be problematic for a city that's trying to establish a thriving downtown area. Then I went back home and I did some calculating. Last year, I alone spent more than $2,000 at Home Depot and at Lowe's over in Lacey. And while I was there, I bought lunch, or I got a cup of coffee, or I bought some gas. And I know I'm not alone on this. If you take a look around DuPont, this is a beautiful city of well-maintained homes, which are maintained by people who are do-it-yourselfers, who spend millions annually at the hardware stores over in Lacey. And while they're there, they buy some gas, they get a cup of coffee, they get some lunch. I also want you to think about something else. Every single unit on JBLM has got an impact credit card, which can be used to purchase expendable items, such as paint, pens, pencils, cleaning supplies. I just recently left my civilian job at JBLM, and my budget annually was $10,000. And I spent that money in Lacey. And when I was there, I bought gas, and I got a cup of coffee, or I had some lunch. We have just gone through one of the worst economic periods in the history of this country. As we come out of the Great Recession, there are literally hundreds of millions of dollars that are pent up right now waiting to be invested by corporations and businesses who have not been able to do so the past decade. DuPont has more vacant and undeveloped commercial property than any other city in Pierce County. So that means that every vacant lot, every undeveloped parcel of land is an opportunity. This may seem like a simple question whether or not we should support this amendment, but I say it is not. This is ground zero for economic development in DuPont. I seriously believe that your decisions will have a generational effect. Businesses are looking right now to determine whether or not they should invest in DuPont because they have a planning commission and a city council that supports them, or whether they should go elsewhere because the city administration is too hard to work with. My time is up. I urge you to support this. This will have a generational impact.
Good evening, I'm Kevin Ballard, 1746 Cadborough Lane, and thank you, Mayor and City Council and staff for allowing me this brief moment to state emphatically that I support this initiative to change the zoning to the mixed use 2 classification. I'm a local business owner and I've been a resident here since 2007, and so many of the points have already been stated. But as a local business owner, I have to tell you that retail tax and B&O tax are going to be the lifeblood of the success of this city moving forward. And with the number of warehouses we have here, we're not generating the types of income stream that will avoid us citizens having to pay levies to continue to support things in the community. Okay? So what I'm saying by this is a 8,000 square foot Ace Hardware store in conjunction with public storage or personal storage would be a boom, an absolute boom. I mean, as I understand it, it's the largest floor plan for Ace Hardware, and the 2,000 foot garden center as an adjunct to that would just be incredible. You talk about the HOA benefiting for it as well, because citizens can go down there and just make home improvements and get their stuff done right here locally in the city. And the city benefits by way of the B&O and the sales tax. I've done some personal research on the industry for personal storage, and the research that I've done, I appreciate the professional in the industry here right now, is that as of 2013 numbers, about 1 in every 10 residents utilize public storage or private storage, personal storage, whatever you want to call it. With 10,000 people here, that means we have, at least 1,000 residents that are going to need to use a facility here. And also, the top private storage company has stated that their numbers have been above 90% occupancy. So they run very high, and in this economy, it's very good. New home sales, new home ownership is at an all-time low in this country. So people are moving to rentals, and they're moving to downsize, which creates a need for this type of industry, and I think it would be well suited here. Okay, none of this, Ace Hardware, anything is going to happen unless this zoning change happens. That's it in a nutshell. We can discuss the benefits of whether, an Ace Hardware would be the best retail on the ground floor. It just doesn't matter unless the council votes to change the zoning for that area. At that point, that's when we can really seriously change this from some proposal to a formalized plan, where people, the planning commission and people can actually make the place fit the shape of the community, the architecture and whatnot. So I really want to emphasize that really the zoning change is the first step, and it has to happen. Thank you. Thank you.
Are there other? Yes, okay. Wow.
Hi, my name is Sandra Hayes, and I've lived in DuPont at 1525 Bittner Court for 8 years. I've also worked at Patriots Landing as the executive director, and I'm here to speak both as a citizen of DuPont and representing the residents of Patriots Landing. When our residents move into an assisted living, independent living, memory care unit, they're downsizing their lives. They need a place to be able to store the important items that they've saved, that they want to give to their children and their grandchildren. And we don't have the space for them to store those things. So having a personal storage unit that they can easily access inside a building, because being out in the weather is not something that most of them are going to want to do, is really, really important to them. So it would be a huge benefit to our residents to have an inside storage area. I would like Ace Hardware to be there because I don't like running to Home Depot in Tacoma or down in Lacey all the time. I'd like to have someplace I can go quick and get what I need. So I know that Mr. Lind has met with Drew and is in favor of helping to build or having him build this building. It's a beautiful building. 8 years I've looked at an empty, ugly lot. So please change the zoning on this so that you can meet the residents' needs and all the citizens' needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and all those soldiers from JBLM who move here and don't have any place to put their stuff either.
Thank you. Are there other, okay. Come on now.
One more. My name is Patrick Lewis.
Did you bring food?
Around Nope. What's that?
Did you bring food?
No, I did not bring any food. I just wanted you to come down and get it later. As usual. I come as a resident and a business owner. We've lived here for 8 years, and I've been to Home Depot 9,000 times. So let's talk Ace Hardware. Yes, they should come. Do I care about a storage unit? Want a storage unit as a resident? Don't really have a firm opinion. Do I think it's nice to have another one? Yeah, I think it'd be great for everybody in the apartments, for the businesses, for me as a person if I needed one. I have 2 storage units at DuPont storage unit now and need a 3rd one. So, as they said, we can use the storage units. I wasn't passionate originally when I talked to you guys about it the last time. So looking at the facilities, talking to everybody about revenue, things like that, what can come, what would be the better thing, changed my opinion. I did a little math myself, and Ace Hardware should come. I spent $5,000 in the last 6 months at Home Depot. That means we buy a lot of screws, a lot of wood, a lot of light bulbs, a lot of weird stuff. I'm addicted to tools, small things like that. I get letters about my yard all the time from people who take pictures. Little things like that. But as a business owner, we'll get through this quickly, it couldn't be better to have another smaller type storage unit to walk in with my paperwork, things like that. I have 2 giant storage units. I could use a smaller one for my catering equipment. Ace Hardware in the same parking lot with high definition cameras. One protects our city. We already have high definition cameras pointing the other way around DuPont. You might as well park those parking lots. So I'm all for it. I think we should do it. The revenue alone after 8 years of a dirt lot can't be any worse. I don't think a gas station is a good idea. We already have one. I like the free air. And any other use that would come would take major changes. So I'm all for it. I say we vote. We'll do it. And like some dinner tonight if you show up.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, come on.
Hi. My name is Stephanie Bolds. I happen to be married to Drew Bolds, but I've only been married 2 weeks. I want to give you color from the last 10 years of my life. I'm a retail real estate specialist. I currently am a project manager overseeing 5 million square feet of community and neighborhood retail properties. Just a couple points from my side of things. A traditional retailer will not be able to make this site work unless it's incorporated in a larger project. Not just any developer, but one that's willing, able, and ready. As far as Ace Hardware goes, it doesn't get, or as far as any hardware goes, it doesn't get more charming than Ace Hardware. And then another little fact for you. An average Ace Hardware store is 10,000 square feet. I have a handful of them in my properties, in my portfolio. And the definition of big box is over 10,000 square feet. So we're still on the small charming side of things. Obviously, I'm in favor. I just wanted to give you a little more color. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay. There being no further testimony, I will close the public hearing. High school students, let me see a show of hands. Okay. Yeah, okay, so, now, you know the rules. You guys want to get signed off for participation and attendance in city government. We're coming on public comments now to anything on and off the agenda. So at least one of you, you've been sitting here listening to stuff, needs to come up and do that. And then at the end of this, when we close the meeting, you get to all come up and bring your paperwork and find your favorite council member or mayor, and we'll sign it off for you. Okay? So, with that being said, the next item on the agenda is public comments. You may speak on anything on or off the agenda, and the same rules apply. State your name, address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
David Buggard, 2702 MacArthur Street. On page 133 of your packet, section 2, findings, conclusions, and recommendations adopted. The City Council finds proposed amendments to DMC Title 25 and rezone are consistent with the city's adopted comprehensive plan and in furtherance of the public health, safety, and welfare incidents. During your workshop with the council and the planning commission, Mr. Wilson answered about 20 questions that should have been on your SPIA. Your SPIA is 19 pages of NA. You have not done your due diligence. As another individual said, you're opening this up to spot zoning. When you change the code for one, you change it for all. I go to Leavenworth, I go to Paulsville. You have had meetings, the council with the tourism workshop, you want to create a niche. In any of those places that you are trying to commit or create, there are no electronic stores, there are no big box stores. We can have an Ace Hardware store, we can have indoor storage anywhere else. We want walkable, desirable sidewalks where people can interact. All of the pictures of those sites, none of them have parking. Go to Google Earth, none of them have parking. You're creating another staging problem. Please, do not move item 13B to the second reading. Serve DuPont, Ace, indoor storage can come. There's many other locations. Thank you.
Other public comments? One intrepid soul.
Dean Anderson of Lakewood, 96263 Avenue Southwest. As an unopposed person, the rezoning to produce a retail and storage building sounds very appealing. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further public comments. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Council, a motion would be in order. We have a motion from Councilmember Gassick, a second from Councilmember Corp. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Thank you, Council. There are no discussion items, and in the spirit of my comments at the beginning of the meeting, I will not render a mayor's report this evening. City Administrator.
I will follow your lead. Nothing significant to report this week.
Thank you. Council reports. Hearing none. Thank you, Council. Unfinished business. We have 2 items of unfinished business. The ordinance regarding 2017 regular property tax levy for a second reading, and then the ordinance regarding 2017 EMS property tax levy second reading. And I will turn this over to Finance Director Paul Berry.
Good evening, Mayor, Courts, council members. So I bring forth to you the ordinance setting the regular property tax levy for 2017. That levy includes the highest lawful rate from 2016 of $1,654,000. Added to that would be the 1% allowable increase of $16,500. In addition, $19,932 for new construction and $24,000 in prior administrative refunds, resulting in a levy of $1,715,649. That is lower than the levy rate that we had for 2016 of $1,732,000 as a result of the administrative refunds. So you'll notice in the ordinance that's in front of you that there is a 0% increase and a $0 increase because the levy rate is below, but I do want to assure you that you will receive that 1% increase allowable by law. Do you have any questions?
Council, questions, comments? A motion would be in order. We have a motion from Councilmember Westman and a second from Councilmember Coffey to approve the 2017 regular property tax levy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the 2017 regular property tax levy signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Council. Motion carries. Next item of unfinished business is the ordinance regarding the 2017 EMS property tax levy, second reading, and I will turn that over to Finance Director Paul Berry.
Thank you very much. Like the mayor said, that this ordinance will be setting the EMS levy for 2017. That levy amount would be $708,474. That is made up again of the highest lawful levy allowable plus the 1%. In addition, it would be $8,100 in new construction as well as nearly $10,000 administrative refunds. Similar to the regular property tax levy, the amount that the city will be receiving in is less than the amount from 2016. So the ordinance again will say a $0 increase and 0% increase, but still we are getting that 1% allowable by law. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay, if there are no questions, a motion would be in order. We have a motion from Councilmember Coffey, a second from Councilmember Court. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the 2017 EMS property tax levy signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Council. Motion passes. New business. We have two items on new business. And Council, this is where I just want to give you an opportunity, or at least give you some thoughts on this. These are both first readings. We're happy to stay here as long as you want to have these discussions. We have an entire workshop next week available to us for whatever it is you wish to offer for the budget or ask the staff to present for the budget. If there are specific changes you wish to address tonight, to have them included for next week, we can prepare parallel budgets to those adjustments. But what I will just ask is a sense of the council so that there are enough of you interested in doing that. And otherwise, we will do that same thing at the workshop next week. Again, an informal sense of the council to make adjustments as you desire before we come back to you with that for consideration on the 22nd, and if necessary, then into December. So those are your choices. I don't want you to feel that we're going to try to either terminate discussion on this topic, not have an opportunity to look for it, or if you wish to stay tonight, we would be happy to do that as long as you desire. So, first item of new business is the ordinance regarding the 2017 final budget, first reading from Finance Director Paul Berry.
Good evening. So with this ordinance that I'm bringing in front of you, I want to give you a little bit of information about the budget. What you're seeing in this ordinance is very similar to what was presented in the 2017 proposed budget. There are very little changes, the primary change being $75,000 that was reduced from property taxes, and it was redistributed amongst various revenues in the general fund, primarily taking into account the revenues that we're going to be recognizing in 2017 related to the two new hotels. I had taken a very conservative stance and hadn't included those in my original figures, so I did go back and incorporate those into those numbers. Then, in addition to that, I also incorporated $8,500 for the reimbursement of overtime dollars that are spent by our police department to handle events for people outside of the city. This is something that has been discussed during the special events ordinance work that's been going on as of late, and I had not put any dollars into the budget recognizing that as well. So I did add that line item for $8,500 into that budget. In addition, like I talked about earlier, the CMMS, which is a computerized maintenance management system that Public Works is looking at doing, it was overlooked in budgeting the street funds portion, so I did put that $3,000 into the street fund. But there are a couple things that really are not in here that we have spent a little bit of time discussing, and before I started adding them into the budget, I really wanted to get a feel from council as to what they wanted to do. In particular, with relations to the Glacier Northwest Fund, there were a couple projects that were recommended be funded. Those are not included in this budget at this point in time. If it is something that council is interested in doing and moving forward with, we can make those adjustments as we go forward. And that would be the trail project and also the trees on Center Drive in the median projects as well. But like I said, those are not included in this. They were not included in the proposed budget either. Ultimately, the overall budget is for $15.5 million, and I would be happy to take any questions that you guys have at this point in time.
Council questions, comments? Councilmember Cassidy.
I was curious if next week at the workshop we could discuss the feasibility study for the community center. I would be interested in knowing what the cost of the survey would be that was brought up versus the remaining costs for the feasibility study and any other reviews that would come along with that, if we can get a cost breakdown.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
All right, thank you.
We do that tonight, but I think we'll just hold that and do that next week. Councilmember Coffey.
Yes. I would hope that next week at our study session that it would be more or less an open forum for the council to discuss the budget. And if there are additions, deletions, or tweaking that the council wants to do, it's the opportunity of the council next week to freely discuss the budget in an open manner and not have it more or less, regulated and directed. So I think there's some things that the council needs to discuss amongst themselves.
Absolutely. There are some things that was in the email I sent you that I wanted to make sure those are the things you've asked for. So we'll present those up front, and then the rest of the workshop absolutely is for your discussion, asking whatever additions, deletions, and again, all I will ask is we can get a sense of the council, because we don't vote at a workshop, if I can get a sense of the council so we can make those adjustments before bringing it in on the 22nd with those adjustments.
I think that you'll probably come away with a list next week at the study session.
Yeah, I expect that.
Thank you.
Other council comments or questions? Okay, the second item of new business is the ordinance creating DuPont Municipal Code, DMC, Chapter 25.36, relative to mixed-use district, permit indoor storage and concurrent rezone, and amending DMC Section 25.10, definitions and other related text amendments. So this is the first reading that we had the public hearing for this evening, and I will turn that over to Jeff Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The draft ordinance is prepared before you provides for the rezone of approximately 2.29 acres to a mixed-use 2 zoning designation within our mixed-use classification. It also provides a new chapter in our code to create the new mixed-use 2 zoning designation, which retains everything currently within the mixed-use zone. It just allows the additional use of the indoor storage as a component. The third element of that is it provides for some flexibility with retail space through a development agreement, but only through development agreements, otherwise it adheres to all the same standards. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have heard through the public testimony or any questions you might have based on the draft ordinance. Point, thank you.
Council. Councilmember Court.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Based on some of the comments that were mentioned tonight, I would like to have some more information looked at before we go to second reading on this. And it was brought up about using other parcels or whether other parcels could be added to that mixed use two designation. And I had mentioned that during one of our workshops that I felt that we needed to look at other places around the city that they need to be changed from mixed use to mixed use two. But at the same time, I also understand that if we did add other parcels, and we're including the ones that we have now, that we're considering, Drew is going to probably go forward with developing. So even if we added other parcels, other areas, he's still looking at that current space. So, but I do want to consider whether there is other places, because even though we've discussed whether it can be considered spot zoning, I kind of, somewhat am concerned about it a little bit because of the fact that that comment was made. I took that to heart, that you've got 3 parcels and only one of them will really probably have indoor storage. The other 2 will probably not ever convert to that. So we could probably get away with not calling it spot zoning, but it does concern me a little bit. So I'd like to see whether there is other areas within mixed use in DuPont that actually could be considered as part of this ordinance. And I did want to make a comment about the storage down the street, because I too have a storage unit there, and I have been on waiting lists for certain size storage units. While it may not be, it may be 65% full or 90% full on very few occasions, the spots that are available down there are usually the larger ones, 10 by 10s, and sometimes when you're trying to find smaller ones, those are the ones that either they don't have a lot of those because they don't have a lot of the smaller ones, more of them are bigger. So when you're looking for some of the smaller ones, it is hard to find sometimes, and you are on waiting lists. The other issue that I had is that the comment that was brought up about the ordinance talking about consistent with the comp plan. So I'd like some how that statement actually reflects what our current comp plan, when it does say that on page 133 that it is consistent with the adopted comp plan, because I'm going to look at that myself, but I'd just like to comment on that when we have our second reading.
Councilmember Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually had the same comment as Councilmember Corp had, his first question regarding alternative parcels. I'd be interested in that same information as well. So my second is a little more brief and addresses a question that I've fielded several times from residents regarding the Ace Hardware store, and I believe Mr. Heston is still here, and there might be something he could answer as well. But the certainty of the Ace Hardware, I think, is what causes a lot of people to go back and forth on whether or not they support the project. So I'm curious, how certain is it? I'm asking for not only myself, but for several residents that have asked me. How sure is it that we are going to be getting an Ace Hardware, not just a vacant retail space, another vacant retail space on the first floor of our storage facility if that comes to fruition? I don't know if Mr. Heston or the developer should insight on that, or if that's something staff can answer.
Can I let the developer speak to that? As far as group station goes. Answer that.
We are 100% committed to Ace Hardware. It is, I'll talk to Stace because I'll let Stace speak, because I've relied on him for a lot of market analysis.
So as I stated earlier, we perform a great deal of market work, pro forma work, and in doing so, we have to evaluate based on the expenses that are needed for a store. If the market is deemed worthy, the expenses need to fall in line as well. In order for that to work, we need to have additional niche, which drives additional revenue based on the value of land. And in order for that to work, we need something else. So we see the need for that additional niche, which is that multi-story function. Drew has committed to this based on the information that we have.
So, Mr. Bolt said that he is 100% committed to Ace Hardware. Are you 100% committed to putting a store on the first floor of that facility?
Yes, we believe in that location. I have someone here actually with me as well from Ace Hardware from our corporate office, and I showed it to them while we had daylight. And we both agreed that it is a prime retail spot. So long as we have a garden center, Drew and I have talked about that, and he understands the need for that. He understands the need that if you have the right size store, I want to make sure you guys understand that an 8,000 square foot store is what it is. You've seen other Ace stores. They have the core department. They're not a big box. They don't feel like a big box. And with that, with the garden center, it will be supported. We've heard residents say that. It is convenient and the brand is strong. But customers will appreciate that so long as the service is strong. And that's something that Drew is committed to as well. So we're very careful where we apply and hang the sign. And that's something that's important to us. So yes.
Councilmember Coffey.
To follow up on the Ace Hardware, I personally, I would, and to Drew, I would like to see a letter of intent signed. Because that would give me a little more insurance or assurance, and citizens also, that there really is commitment. Because I'm a little bit jaded because I have lived here since '98, and we've been promised a lot of things that have not come to fruition. And, I understand. I grew up in a small town where Western Auto was on the main street, and so I like the idea of a small hardware store. And so I would feel comfortable if Ace Hardware would produce a letter of intent.
Yeah, we have an affiliation process, and that's what we do with every store. Because we're owned by our retailers, there's a process. They have to purchase stock in the company. There's some basic requirements of that. Certainly, when we have an intent from a developer who would like to operate the store himself, that makes life much easier. So I think that would be an issue with working with Drew on that.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
And then, Drew, I want to thank you for your detailed letter that you gave us all of your information, and I did read it word for word. The one thing that did bother me the most is I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought now. The look of it and how you're going to access it. That is really my main concern about the building. And I'm hoping that we do have something that will fit with the community. Because that's the biggest thing that I have heard, with the 3-story building here. Also, reading through your letter here to us, I was very amazed that the statue on Center Drive, that there's not some legal documents, and I'm hoping that the city, can address this sort of thing. We do have this information in our packet, so it's a public document. So that's something that is, going to have to be addressed. And the next thing that I'm concerned about is to guarantee that we do have the 80% retail on the main floor. Because we don't really want any more empty spaces down there. So,
So in addressing that, think there's a couple things that you're asking me to respond to. The first is the architectural look of the building, actually what it'll look like. I believe you had asked about certainty of an Ace Hardware actually going in, occupying and operating the space. And then I believe the third was that we can do 80% first floor retail. So I'll address all three of those. Firstly, on the architectural look of the building, there is a process in place for that, the design review. And Jeff, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is something that does get, is that a council action or that's an administrative review?
Correct.
So part of the reason that I haven't designed a sketch and presented a picture to you is because I didn't want something going on public record that I thought looked great and that you thought looked great when it hadn't gone through design review, and then have comments later saying, well, we were promised this and now it looks a little bit different. So in terms of the exterior look of the building, that is something which the city has control over. I am very committed to having an aesthetically beautiful building that fits in well with downtown. You know, if I didn't, I would buy the lot next to DuPont self-storage and build there. It'd be less expensive. The second question was surety about an Ace Hardware going in. It was actually the idea of an Ace Hardware came from planning committee when this first began. We were looking at indoor storage as a standalone use. And a couple of things that came up were the top two really were grocery store and hardware store. And grocery store, I know that's what everybody wants. And I hit a dead end. I made phone calls, we tried, we got nothing. Hardware store though, we had my broker actually contact one of his clients who owns numerous Ace Hardwares, and that's where the conversation began. I looked at the Ace model, I've gone through it very in detail. There's a lot of benefits to it. This location works. It would not work as a standalone Ace based on the property cost, but as a mixed use, it works. I've made this comment not on public record, but I'll make it on public record now, which is my intent, if this goes forward and passes, is I would like to build the space directly with Stace's input as a purpose-built Ace Hardware, including signage, including racking systems, including all of the things that they would want, layout, just as Ace would want a prototype store. What I would like is about a year to market that for an operator, because I feel an owner-operator would be, you know, I live in Sammamish, so it's not going to be possible for me to come to work in DuPont every day. I think the ideal scenario would be for an owner-operator. We've looked at it based on the conservative sales projections. With a fairly small cash investment, someone could make a six-figure income running this. And if it did well, they could make a very good six-figure income. So I don't think we're going to have a difficult time finding an operator for it. However, I'd be willing to engage in the development agreement that if we did not find an operator within a specified period of time, that I would open it. I would need to hire somebody, hire a general manager and so forth to open it, but that is my commitment, and that is how I can say that it's 100% certainty that there will be an Ace there. Lastly, in terms of your needing assurance about the 80% first floor retail, I will tell you right now, I cannot do 80%. It would require, for me to do this project, it would require the use of a development agreement, reducing that. Self-storage actually, I mean, there's a number of reasons for that. One is traffic flow and traffic impact on the daycare. Self-storage is I can bring about 10,000 square feet of retail space. If we were at 80%, that number would need to be much, much higher, and I feel the traffic impact, parking would be very difficult. And frankly, we wouldn't hit, on a 3-story building, we wouldn't hit the amount of storage we would need for that to be a profitable business. So we would rely on a developer's agreement to reduce that from the 80%. But I feel it's appropriate because if that property were to be a standalone retail, you're probably only going to get 10,000 square feet or so of retail on it anyway. So I'm looking at bringing that amount, the 10,000 square foot of hardware retail, plus our retail sales office, which is about 1,000, 1,200 square feet, something along those lines. Councilmember Kessler.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank everyone who spoke tonight. I appreciate the feedback. It was really nice having attended the initial hearing last month with the Planning Commission, and the overall perception has turned to be more positive, and I think people finally have the vision of what this could do for DuPont and what this could be for DuPont. I am still considering all the comments from the previous meeting as well as the comments from this hearing. But I also appreciate Drew coming out and bringing the partners from Ace Hardware, and it was really nice to hear that you are committed to the project. DuPont would flourish with a hardware store, I believe, and I don't even want to think about adding up my receipts for the last year because it would be devastating. So I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate everyone who spoke and came out tonight.
Councilmember Wesson.
Yes, I would like to compliment my fellow council members, Coffee and Cassidy, in bringing up the issues having to do with the assurance that if we were to approve this mixed use, that the project would definitely go forward. Council member Coffee and myself are the senior members of this council, being here since 2004.